Welcome to Lean Into Leadership, where we lead the conversation about anything and everything leadership related. On today's episode, Alfred Harper III joins the show. Hey everybody, it's Brandon Skiles, and welcome to episode 5 of Lean Into Leadership. Today's a great one we got planned for you here. Talking a little bit about different things around leadership. We're diving into some involvement through leadership. It's going to be a great show. Our special guest today, Alfred Harper III here. A little bit about Alfred is he currently serves as the Assistant Director over in the Mass Office for Multicultural Student Education. The Mass Office also stands for the Multicultural-Academic-Student-Services Department, if you're here at CMU. Got your master's degree in student affairs and higher education. Currently working on your doctorate degree, which is super exciting.
Yes,
when do you think you're going to get that done?
Oh, man, we are praying and hoping that will be, if not no later than spring of 2025.
Okay. So you're about halfway through?
Yeah, halfway through. We got comprehensive exams coming at the end of this semester in December. After that proposal and, defend and write dissertation.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be exciting to see. Also, you lead a lot of program initiatives through the Mass Office, planning some of those heritage months, both educational and just a great way for students to kind of get to know one another, connect with different communities, identities, things like that. Super fun. The big MLK celebration we have here at CMU, which is if you're at CMU or you're coming to CMU, that's definitely one of those events you got to do. It's super awesome. Last year was a great plan. This guy planned it. So a lot of great things that Alfred does here, and you definitely have that passion for working with students and helping them find their purpose. So it's super cool. We're super pumped you're on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you for having me and even thinking of me to be a part of Lean Into Leadership.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So before we kind of jump into the content, I'd love for you to kind of have the opportunity to share a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you do the work you do with the audience.
So again, as Brandon mentioned, work in the Mass Office, and the reason why I do it, well, I guess what it is that I do, a little bit more about myself, is I would say that it started off with me going my undergraduate experience. So I went to a HBCU, and originally being first-generation college student, being from a suburban community, and essentially not knowing exactly who I was, not comfortable immersed inside of the community that I was in. So I experienced culture shock in my experience as an undergraduate student, and realizing that once I was able to become immersed into the environment, the campus that I was on, and get to know individuals for who they were, then I realized, again, not everyone has the same experience when it comes to culture, when it comes to identity, because we can be of the same background, but again, our experiences are different. So, and also being an African-American male and being a first-generation college student, individuals that look like myself may not always take advantage of going to college and post-secondary education. So realizing that, I really just want to kind of give back, right? And because I was able to have these experiences and essentially continue to learn, and then also continue to evolve as an individual, share my experience, share my passion with other individuals that look like me and just may not even look like me, but because I did it, they can too.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
So your first big question today, we're kicking off with a good one. When and how did you kind of find your passion for working with students? What was that story, or how did you get to that point?
Wow. So like I mentioned, working with students, I would say that once I finished working on my master's, and after I was able to find my first, I would say, role, which was, I was a degree audit coordinator at Central State University, and then I became an academic advisor at Central State. And being an academic advisor, to be honest, again, you are helping students figure out exactly what their purpose is, what their passion, what they want to major in, because, a lot of them say, hey, I want to come in to do, X, go into business because I want to be able to make, as much money as I can, or I want to go into computer science and, make as much money as I can. But again, I would say that money is not always the end-all, be-all. You're able to find your purpose and your passion by what it is that you like to do, right? Because if you combine purpose and passion together, then the money, then everything else will come after.
Exactly. Big point right there. I was just going to touch upon that too. I heard that. I read that millions of different places, I feel like now. But that's so true. you can find that passion because you love it. You're going to continue to do it, work hard at it, and then that's when those benefits start to come through, right?
Exactly, and it's a thing of that you're all in that moment, in those different transitions. You're also learning about yourself as well. You are able to help and bring those individuals that may find and connect with you, kind of bring them on board, allow them to find themselves in the work that that you're doing and that they are a part of, and then they can now find a passion, right? So it's like you're transforming them, but while also transforming yourself, right? Because you're exposing them to different experiences, but you're also able to transform and expose yourself to different experiences and see exactly what it is that you are made of and that what you're capable of doing.
Right. Yep. It's amazing. It's awesome. And it's funny, 'cause getting to know you a lot better this, like, let's say last half year or so, I definitely can see that too. And you just seeing you at different, like, events or tabling, working with students, that passion to really help students help find their purpose, because that is a big part, I feel, of that college experience, right? Or and it's one of those things we talk about all the time on the show as well, is it's really what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, right? Or the experience you make for yourself. But that's just a great way to get that full-rounded educational experience by finding what you want to do. I think that's should be everyone's goal in college.
I agree with that, because being an academic advisor, and then even just in the role that I am now inside of the Mass office, because again, CMU is a PWI, right? And when it comes to minoritized populations, right, and they can sometimes not, or not say not, but they can feel as if they may not be, they're not able to find their space and their place on campus, right? So it's like asking those questions, exactly what have you done to become a part? What have you done to also get involved in the institution? Have you taken that time out to have those conversations intentionally with instructors, with peers, seeing exactly how they've got involved, and, allowing yourself to be opened up to new experiences, because you're learning about yourself, you're also learning about other individuals, and you find exactly where you sit inside of this world, in this place. I think about my undergraduate experience, right? As I mentioned, it was a culture shock completely, and for the first 2 years I wanted to transfer. I wanted to leave the college, Central State, where I was, right? And I wanted to go somewhere else, but I realized that after the first year I became a resident advisor, and I was able to, get involved in another way, right? Not only was it the financial benefit of, scholarship for room, and then also pay, but I was able to, learn conflict management. I was able to learn these other skills, and also add another layer for those individuals who were coming in, while I was also yet still a sophomore. So I was able to learn more about myself and see exactly, okay, how do I like to essentially serve other individuals, and, help them, be able to navigate institution, college, while I'm also still learning as well, and challenge myself, but then also still show effort to my own personal development.
Right. Yep. So many key nuggets of information in there, and touching on that too. Again, diving into like finding things that you want to do. I think in general, I think the world would be a lot happier if people really were able to find that passion and find what they enjoy doing. Because again, sometimes it doesn't feel like work, and especially if you can combine that with helping other people. I mean, I think that's the sweet spot.
That's true, and even with doing that, there will be. I think one thing I'm learning right now, again, as I'm juggling both, a doctoral program full time, but then also learning a new role. I think one thing I'm learning is the importance of continuing to show up even when those times do get hard, right? Making that effort to learn more about what the work that you are doing, how is it impacting those students that are actually being a part, right? But then also, how are you building those connections with other campus partners, but then in bringing in their work, so you're able to take and bring in-class experiences, but then also line it up with someone's actual purpose and passion, what they're actually going into as far as a major, and then you mix the two, so it's like, okay, now they can see exactly, okay, I don't have to just go into this one area, right? I can can now use my work to maybe reach other individuals that may not be a part, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I think too, a lot of the time, sometimes we don't even like that as mentioned or realize what's out there, and I think that's a great way to find that. And for the viewers in college right now or going into college, no, that's normal, right? There's a lot of students end up switching what they want to do, or maybe going into that same program idea but changing what they want to do in that field, right? That's even really popular, and that might even happen in the course over life as well, right? And we also too realize that I think there's a lot of pressure at times being, especially getting closer to graduation, not just in high school but in college especially. You gotta have your life figured out at 21, 22 for those traditional age students, but even for older or maybe even younger students, and there's some truth to that, but it's not always necessarily the case, because things can change, or you can change what you want to do as well.
Man, I mean, literally, as we are evolving as individuals, I'm 31 years old, and I'm still learning about myself every day, right? As you evolve as an individual, it's like passion, interests, they change, I mean, there have been countless times I've had students come to my office for an advising appointment, and they want to, they're going into psychology, right? And they want to become a psychiatrist, but, they realize that with becoming a psychiatrist, counselor, it doesn't just stop at that undergrad level. There's additional schooling, certification that you have to go through in order for you to actually be able to begin to see clients, right? And they be like, oh no, I don't think I could do this. But okay, so when choosing one of those fields, or just any type of field like that, ask, okay, is there a specific population that you want to go into? Is it like forensics? Is it children, right? How do you now add on, those other credentials like a child development or sociology, social criminal justice, so therefore it's like you're adding on to what it is you really like to do, and how that can now go into the same field, and you're able to still kind of do the same work that is you're doing. Or you could even go into like nonprofit, but you're also still learning about individuals, right? And the way that they think, and but you just may be helping them kind of evolve, maybe from a criminal background, with forensics, or even like child development, from teen to adult to older age, etc.
Right. No, definitely. So you mentioned real quick. So you're 31, right?
Yep.
Do you still feel young, like super young, right? You got a lot.
Do I still feel young? Oh my goodness.
I feel like you do, right? Because I think a lot of college students in their young 20s are like 30. It's like that seems so old, but it really isn't. You know what I'm saying? In the perspective of life.
Maybe my thought and my perspective of being 31. I feel like I'm old, but I also feel like I should be at a certain space, a certain mindset, and I should have certain things that as of right now I don't necessarily have, right? So it's like now figuring out, okay, what have I done maybe in my life? One, have I followed passion? Have I followed those dreams? And I believe that, because I'm always growing. I'm always trying to at least challenge myself, and even when those challenges do come, continue to press forward and show that effort. Not give up, but being 31, I couldn't even imagine myself being 31, because I feel like I was just 16. I was in high school, and being somebody who is essentially, I would say, the first person in their family to first intermediate family to go to college, but then also like being somebody who's one of the first males to leave the state after 4 years in my right mind of working in a space, and then making that transition, because I came to CMU January of 2020. I did not essentially turn in my resignation letter from my former job until I received an offer letter from current institution, and did that. And when I moved here, COVID happened.
Right, you're in the middle of the pandemic when you started a new job.
The pandemic wasn't even happening then. It was 7
Oh yeah, that's right. It was
before.
March. Yeah.
So you're talking about moving from a land where kind of everybody. You're talking about family. You're talking about friends. You're talking about just life that you know about, and you move to Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I mean, and I'm not saying that like Mount Pleasant is bad, but I'm saying that like, I know people in Detroit. That's 2 hours going south. Anybody who lives in Michigan, just let me say south, because Mount Pleasant is up north. But but Detroit is nowhere near
Right.
Mount Pleasant, right? And
especially during almost when you're in a pandemic, right?
and by yourself,
Right.
you know. So, and I mean, you got to learn a new land, a new environment,
Right.
on top of learning, you know, even though the role was the same from another institution, different policies, different structures,
Right.
that are going on. And, you know, not to, mention, is to think about it, I got into a car accident as well.
Oh my
you
goodness.
know, I think the day after I moved. So you're talking
Jeez.
about navigating and you know, journeying, if that's a word. I'm gonna make it up today.
We're gonna make it a word.
But going through these different transitions after moving, and then March 15th hits of 2020,
Yeah.
pandemic.
Right.
They shut the institution down for 2 years.
Right.
2 years, you're talking about working from home.
Yeah.
You know, and you couldn't really do anything, and it causes you to question. You know, did I, you know, to make it personal, did I make the right decision?
Right.
You know, all of these different things going, and I think about, honestly, that whole time frame, and you know, just really the experiences and where I am right now. I do think that I did make the right decision, even you know, when sometimes some stuff just gets hard and you think you know you didn't. It's life. If life was easy, you know, then we would not have it made. We would just be able to get to where we're supposed to be at.
Exactly.
But that's not the way it is, because if it was easy, then, you know, what would we actually value? What would we actually
100%.
Allow ourselves to have that integrity, to have that drive, and to really be able to maintain and keep what it is that we've now earned, or what has come to us. So, you know, going through the pandemic, realizing that, you know, again, I've always thought about going into starting a doctoral program, which, you know, again, my master's program, find out I wasn't the best writer, you know, but I learned, you know, again, using resources. If you know you're not a good writer, find at the institution, at CMU Writing Center. Definitely utilize it, learn and know what's best for you to be successful. Shameless plug. But
great source. It is a great resource. 100%.
You know, and I think this podcast is going to go to students. So, you know, again, if you're listening and you know, I mean, if you need edits or whatnot, go to the Writing Center. But in that moment, you know, I've found out, one, with me not being a good writer, okay, what do I have to do to kind of perfect that skill, get things done, start earlier, think about things right. But again, as Brandon mentioned and asked me, doctoral program, yes, I'm in a doctoral program. I don't think that if I was in the same space and I was in Dayton, Ohio, and I was comfortable because of the connections, the family, the community that I built, I don't think that I would have started my doctoral program. I don't think that I would actually be where I am if I was still in Dayton, Ohio, because I had some friends ask me exactly, you know, do you think you would be where you are if you were in Dayton? And I don't think so, because I was in that same mundane routine,
comfort
day to
zone,
day, exactly. But here I am now, second year of a doctoral program, and you know, as I'm, you know, I've learned a new role, learned different skills, and frustrating, stressful at times. Definitely not afraid to admit that. But again, through effort, through continuing to show up, all of these things and learning, it's doable. You can accomplish it. But as I've started the doctoral program and realizing various skills, having to pivot, and you know, being able to find different ways to conceptualize when it comes to theory, apply it in different ways. You know, I don't think that I would have done what it is I'm doing now if I was still in that same space.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing all that information. And I think that's going to resonate, I think, with a lot of, hopefully, viewers, but I think it will with maybe some of those younger students again, because, you know, telling that story, you know, when you moved to your late 20s, right, now 31, been here for a couple of years now, finally got that kind of your feet underneath you a little bit, because we're now back in person, right? That's throwing in that extra level is just even more, difficult to kind of create those connections online. I mean, everyone kind of lived through this. Like, that was a difficult time. But sharing that, here I am at this, late 20s, early 30s, still, and even mentioning when you mentioned, like, I'm still constantly learning how to grow and challenging myself, and I don't know where I'm at. I think that really hits home. It's going to hit home with people because that's how life is, right? Yep. We're continuously, hopefully, evolving and learning new things. And the thing about that decision, too, that you explained so nicely was, you're never going to know if that was the right decision or not, but you made a decision and you found those positives out of it, right? And I think that's an important mindset to have too, moving forward.
That is very true. And one thing I'm the type of person where my faith is something that really does help and kind of ground me. So I never, I don't think I just make impulse decisions,
right?
And at least I try my best not to. And I try to find grace in everything and try to when going for maybe positions or maybe being asked to do things, I could say I've lived that life to where I've would just kind of take on something, just one that person asked me, so I feel like I have a dedication, especially if they're someone that's connected with me, to take advantage of it. But even when thinking about me moving to Mount Pleasant and positions where I am right now, the amount of prayer, the amount of thought that it took me to like really kind of think, okay, what are the essentially what could be the consequences of if I make this decision? If I don't, what could happen, right?
Right.
But then at some point you kind of just have to take that risk as well and know, at least for me, that with me doing that, I know that it's not, I am able to, one, financially afford it. I'm just going to be honest. So if you make a decision, I tell anybody, if you're going to move to a different state or whatnot, and you got to quit a job or, whatever that may look like, I would tell you, don't quit unless you got something next. That's
right.
Just,
being practical.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you have to be practical. You have to be mindful of what your responsibilities are, right? Because I think that it's important because, again, I can't ask for something and expect something, especially if I'm the one that brought it to myself, and then everything's going to be okay. No, I just, but I have to know that if I know that what I'm doing is maybe calculated, maybe, and I'm able to, I don't want to say control but everything in my due diligence is done, and that's what I'm learning right now, is that just letting due diligence of what it is that you're putting in, let that just, you can't control everything, right?
You really can't.
And if that was the case, then why would we need faith or some type of expectation if we're able to control everything? Hard pill to swallow right now,
right? Because
I find myself retracting very easily.
Really only control how you show up, right? In the moment and stuff. So
exactly, but still doing that and realizing that if I am here in a specific space, then I was meant to actually be here. And if I know that it's not harming, if I know that it's not causing any type of detriment to myself, mentally, spiritually, personally, all of these different things, and I'm able to find, again, as you mentioned, the optimist, and and be positive about it, then I'm in a good space.
Right.
It may hurt. It may have some rough, crying times. The moment and the feelings of I don't deserve it. I don't belong here. That may come.
Right.
That's real. Like, it's real.
Yeah.
Like, I think as I've learned, I've grown. Like, when I think about like my experience in college, like I was the type of person, I was always optimistic. I still am optimistic, but I was the type of person where it was the grass is green and the sky is blue all the time.
Right. And that's just not. That's not really the way it is.
Exactly. Right? That's not life. Because there are going to be times where we're going to be sad. We're going to have to cry. We're going to not always feel like our best. But again, through effort, through supplication, through consistency, and showing up, we're able to continue to do that, right? And we're able to find exactly what it is that we're supposed to be doing. What it is that we're supposed to be putting our energy towards, our thought towards. The work that we should be doing. I think, again, I think one thing I've learned over life is that we're not meant to do this thing by ourselves. It can always be that way for us to try to do it by ourselves, but that's not life. It's 10 times harder.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if I had to do it by myself, why would I need to apply for a job? Why would I need to do X, Y, and Z to try to get to where I want to be at? No, it's going to take potentially individuals that have either had that experience, so therefore we can learn what maybe they've done to get to where they are, or they can also be vulnerable and share with us what not to do.
Right.
That's important because, yes, most times history repeats itself, but we can stop that essentially if we take that time to learn maybe from our elders, from individuals that have gone through or experienced or maybe gone through that process. So therefore we don't have to do that. We don't have to experience. We don't have to delay ourselves from where it is that we're supposed to be.
Yeah, I love that. That connects perfectly to our episode 3 with mentorship, right? I know our guest, Jewel, so if you've seen that, definitely check that episode out. But if you remember, too, if you did watch that one already, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's going at that journey alone. You can be successful. It's going to be a lot more challenge, though. But when you get those mentors or those people in your life that you can learn from, get that support system from, those resources, their knowledge, combine it with all that drive that you have and everything that you've learned personally, too, sky's the limit at that point, right?
And seriously, and I mean, there's those experiences and of formal mentorship, informal mentorship. Like it doesn't always have to be somebody who excuse me. It doesn't have to be somebody who may be in the same field as you. But when I think about like my first who I would say my first mentor, right? Somebody that, I look up to, and I still actually, even though, they're no longer with us. And it was my pastor, and I think about one, his dedication, one to God, but his dedication to the people that he served in the community. I mean, I'm talking about like, okay, yeah, preach 2 services on Sunday. Okay, but when I think about the work that he's done, like being somebody who would, go with my aunt to morning prayer before school because because of that time period of when, maybe what I was experiencing, at that time, going and him showing up at 6 a.m. in the morning every day, and the skills, the encouragement that he poured into individuals at that time, as individuals may say, the young folk, young people like myself at that time, of who you were, who you are, what you can be. Countlessly doing those things and the dedication. And I think about the first job that I have, like I had when I was 16, I worked at KFC, learning that if I'm going to, involve myself into something, if I'm going to put that time and that energy, I'm going to do it, and not do it half, right? I'm going to put all of my energy into that specific task, that specific duty, because again, I've committed myself. I've made that dedication, so I should put all of me into it, and that's the passion, that's the importance, and that's where you will find exactly why you should be doing it. But then also, again, if I'm going to not dedicate that time in that space, I can also now do half dedication in another area.
Right.
Maybe that's towards my finances. Maybe that's towards what I'm doing in class. Right. Doing for work. All of these different things. So yeah.
I love that. So, just gotta segue into this question here. What is your go-to? There might be more than one, or maybe what is your favorite leadership approach or style to utilize?
My favorite leadership approach and style to utilize, I would say it would probably be transformational leadership.
Okay.
But then I'm going to also even pivot towards authentic leadership
okay.
as well.
Authentic leadership. Love that one.
And the reason that being is because there's a this song is a part of my morning playlist that I have. But,
okay.
I love Disney movies, and specifically Tarzan. And Phil Collins, if you don't know, dope guy, music amazing. But the song "Son of Man" by Phil Collins and Tarzan, there's a line in that song that says, "You teach when you learn when you teach." And the reason why I say authentic leadership is because one thing that I've learned is that as I'm again navigating, going through life, evolving always, I can feel like I've made it to this pinnacle. I've made it to this top, but I really essentially haven't, right? And even though I have specific experiences, I have to be authentic with those challenges. I have to be authentic. I have to be honest about what it is that I'm feeling in the moment. And when it comes to essentially sharing those things with students, with individuals, my experiences with students, just people in general, I'm able to provide that transformation, provide maybe that different perspective, and help them see exactly things differently, or what they can either take from what it is that I'm sharing or not take, and they can kind of go about their business in their day-to-day life, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. Love both those leadership theories and approaches. So they're awesome. So why is getting involved in college so important? I know we kind of touched upon it, but maybe for that incoming student, maybe a student who's already in college that wants to get more involved, why is that so important to their development?
When I think about getting involved as a college student and their just their development, it's important to get involved. One, because it helps you learn and get to know new individuals. You get to experience different things outside of your normal, right? So if you know that you like, you may not be the most fashionable maybe individual or whatnot, and if that's the case, like fashion shows or maybe confidence or things of that nature, there are different ways that you can get involved to help you with those skills in those areas that may not be as strong right now, but it also gives you that ability to learn how to communicate, how to get to know individuals, relationship building one-on-one, meet different people, learn about their experiences, learn about their backgrounds, and how does that go into development. One, it lets you know how you can essentially engage with new individuals, learn about different people's I would say their thoughts, the way they think, their perspective, and realize, okay, what you do and what you do not like. And then you can take those same skills, team building, once you go inside of the workplace, and collaboration.
Exactly. So important to get involved. What are some ways that, and I guess in your experience, can students find ways to get involved on campuses? I mean, every institution is a little bit different. A lot of institutions do have some type of department dedicated to finding students. Here we have a ton and lots of involvements with a lot of great opportunity. Again, not just for all those skills, but also that leadership development, and also just again like learning more about who you are, that building that self-awareness for sure. But what are some ways students can do that?
So just to make sure hear your question correctly, how students can get involved, where students can get involved, and
how they maybe go about it.
Okay. So when I think about it, I mean, of course, we have student activities and involvement, right? Different RSOs, engagement. When I think about specifically our office and the work that I do, we have various cultural celebrations, and the thing about it is that it's not just us leading the charge. So if you have an idea or there's a specific topic when it comes to identity, when it comes to a specific culture, come in to talk to us, let us hear about it, and we can talk about it and see exactly how we can apply it, how we can make that now a part of our celebrations, and then also have you get a part of various RSOs and students that are in our office.
Right. So that's awesome. I mean, you can start involvements. I know at least here at Central, it's super, super easy to do so. If maybe you don't have an organization, or maybe you find something like you just mentioned that you want to really bring bring upon campus, so you can do that too.
And I think that's the good thing about CMU is that, if there is not if there's not a RSO, you can start it. I think I saw like there's a Ariana Grande or a squirrel club. There's some type of there's a weird names you can create that RSO. But even there are a lot of students and that will just kind of pitch this idea and just get involved, and they're the ones actually leading the program, and finding exactly what their passion is, during that conversation.
And getting all those benefits that you just talked about previously, and you said leading the way and bringing in these awesome things, and bonus looks great on the resume too when you're applying for those careers and jobs.
Does.
So those are just awesome ways to get involved, definitely. So how can a leader inspire others to get involved in college? I think that's a really important thing, especially when you think about student leadership, right? How is that in your experience?
In my experience, and I guess my perspective, how can a student leader specifically help another student get involved and kind of share? I think the first step is, one, if you find somebody who's not involved and they're struggling, with community and engagement, one, sharing exactly how you got to where you are, especially if you were not the type of person who was in a leadership capacity, or who was not involved, right? Because I think if you're involved, you don't have to be a president. You don't have to be a part of RSO's e-board to be considered a leader or in a leadership position. I think the simple 100%. Fact that you're taking the step to get involved, show your face, do some form of work or volunteer activity, that makes you a leader, because you're stepping outside. You have stepped outside of your comfort zone. So I think that if you see that, being able to pay it forward by sharing your experience, sharing exactly how you were able to get to where you are, and sharing the benefits, the development, how it has helped you, what experiences have come after that have enhanced, that have grown your experiences, whether that's going to conferences, whether that's networking, whether that's meeting alumni, etc. Like there are benefits that you've received while being a student leader. So like always sharing exactly what has happened with you being involved in being a student leader.
I love that. Yep. That's really I love how you mentioned paying it forward, right? And really sharing your story too. That's very effective in getting other students involved. And I think too, sometimes you got to push people and nudge them in a positive but in a nice way and things like that, to get out of their comfort zone a little bit too. And something we talk about a lot as well is part of that though is also within yourself, right? You kind of have to make that first step a little bit, which can be a little bit challenging or maybe nerve-wracking at times. But again, I know we've mentioned it on our show before, and we'll probably mention it another 10 million times after this. But there's people at least here at CMU to support you on that journey, and I'm sure at other places as well.
Imposter syndrome is real.
Yep.
You can sometimes feel like you've made it to a certain spot, or you don't. And you don't belong, right? Again, like I think I mentioned it previously. If you were given an opportunity and you take it, you were made for that specific opportunity. Eventually, one thing I'm learning is that eventually everything it will work out, for us. Whether it's bad, whether it's good. I mean, if it's good, it's going to work out. But even in those bad moments, it's all about perspective.
100%.
And that's life, right? Perspective.
It's all perspective. It's all it is.
If you, I think it's one of those sayings. Fool me once, okay, but you fool me twice, then I'm the one that's looking crazy, right? But it's the same thing. Like if you experience failure while doing something that first time, okay, take a step back, reflect, give yourself that grace and that room to actually see, okay, what steps, what things have I actually done to either get to this moment, and if I failed, okay, let me take a step back. What didn't I do to make this happen as successfully as I wanted it to?
Yeah.
So therefore, you're able to now go through it with a different lens and eye perspective, and you can now create new strategies.
100%. I think you could make sometimes in certain cases you can even argue that sometimes failing, we'll put in quotes, or losing at something, you might even learn more from, right? You've learned all these lessons. Now you got to do that reflective work, right? That's a big component. Even when things go well, right? Reflecting on that, why it went well. What are some things you can continue to improve on? But I think even sometimes when things don't go the way we hoped or planned or expected, sometimes that's even better because, again, we've learned a lot of different things that are going to help us that next time or maybe in other areas of life.
That's very true. I mean, and like you mentioned, I think that's a good thing you mentioned, Brandon, about different areas of life, right? If we're not successful at something that first time, right? It may not come the day after. It may come a year down the line. It may come 2 years, right? But, you will know, and you'll be able to see, okay, I remember this from somewhere. And you'll be able to go back and think about it, from something that happened previously, and now go through it and see what you can do differently. Like, one thing I'm learning right now is the importance of to-do list and just my memory. There was at one point in my time I could remember things, with no problem, right? There was at that time period there were not as many things going through my head, whether that's personal thoughts, whether that's things that I got going on with school, whether I got going on with personal life and got going on with work. I'm learning, and remember the importance of that good old to-do list or that good old, calendar, right? It may not have been something that I was able to, and that's small, right? But again, I'm learning that that's not something I had to do before. And, if I forget something, okay, I know why I didn't write. I should have wrote it down. But if I write it down, I realize it does help me in my memory. Right. But when something else comes up, it does trigger because there's something about that physical movement, muscle memory. That's the word I'm looking for. Muscle memory of doing it, and now it's somewhere in the head of memory, and yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's another it's just a key point. I know if he's kind of got there, but that's such another important point too. Is someone I've heard this also in many ways in different forms. Is like write down your goals, right? Get them out of your head, right? So you see them, so you remember writing them. It's the same kind of thing with the to-do list or a calendar. Those are strategies that help, through life and through involvement too.
Right, and you know what? Writing it down as I'm learning and the importance of, you see progress. If you write it down and you create a checklist and to-do list, like when doing that, you see progress. You see, okay, I'm actually making progress. I'm actually completing a task, right? When I think about when going through the process of planning MLK, for the first time, I mean, there are a lot of steps. There are a lot of processes to go through. I mean, you're talking about from working with UE, with the brunch and the setup, from catering to speakers to choir to the peace march from campus to downtown. I mean, that goes with permit, getting that from the city, police, and just the whole experience, right? There's a process to get to that great event, right? Because in seeing the amount of students that came out to that march, I was like, wow, this is big, because there were students from different experiences and different backgrounds that had some form of justice on their heart, on their mind, that they wanted to promote, and that they wanted to be recognized. But going through that process of completing to make the march, to make just MLK Day in general the success that I believe that it was, it took connecting with various offices, forming a committee, having conversations, etc. But I know I didn't do it by myself. Definitely a team, but I had to write those things down.
Right, yeah. So much to remember
of what needed to get done.
Yeah, 100%. And it was a success. It was a really cool event. You did a really good job on it. So, and your team. Yeah, definitely an event to attend on campus if you're here at CMU. So I know I personally have struggled with this. It's something I've been working on and developing. just more, I think this one for me more in my life, not necessarily my involvements, but I know this is super common as well for a lot of students. Once they kind of get involved and then hopefully enjoying those things, sometimes students maybe become too involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can obviously take a toll on many things in their personal life as well. But how can a leader effectively say no to some things and be comfortable doing so? Like, how can somebody maybe practice that skill?
Man, how can a leader effectively say no
Mm-hmm.
and practice that skill? Being somebody that has always been yes, that has been someone who's dependable,
Mm-hmm.
and shown up for people. Like, I think if anyone was to probably ask a lot of my friends before moving to Mount Pleasant, like I think I'm dependable and reliable, right?
Yeah.
And will come through. But at some point in my life, I realized that not everybody's maybe problem or everybody's ask or whatnot is as maybe important or as a priority as it should be.
Right.
If that makes sense, digested the way that you need to, right? But being somebody who has always said yes, I think as I've gotten a little older, and where I am right now, I've allowed myself to take a little bit more time to say, okay, let me think about that and ask specifically, okay, what are you looking for?
Right.
So therefore, I can kind of take a step back and I can kind of think, okay, how much am I able to actually give?
Right.
And also, like I mentioned before, is that I'm somebody who will not do things halfway.
Right.
I don't like it. So that's I think that's probably one thing I always think about.
Okay.
Is that what is the percentage of time that I could actually commit? So therefore, because again, I know myself to some degree, and again, like I mentioned, I take with me being involved with things, I take it very seriously,
right?
Because I care, and if I can't give that level of dedication, commitment, I'm gonna have to say no. And I think just being honest.
Yeah.
Like if you're asking me, how to do it, just be honest with the person. And if you are talking with somebody, again, if they know your heart, if they truly know that, then they'll know. And right. you can share what it is you have going on, and how it just doesn't work. But at the end of the day, if they know your heart, and ask them to keep you, connected, or think of you about other opportunities.
I like that addition.
So therefore, you're not just giving them that solid no. You're not just kind of blowing them off, if you want to say that. But you're saying this is just not fitting right now.
Exactly. Kind of keeping the door a little bit open, but and for other options. And maybe that's something that in those moments too, you say no, but there's something you can do that they maybe bring up that you can't help with, right? It kind of still helps that person, because I think that's the biggest thing. Especially, I'm the kind of the same way. Is you wanna put your best effort out there and help people, but you only do so much because everyone has the same amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And your time's valuable too, personally. So, and sometimes it's hard to say no, especially it's to people that you care about or want to help out. But I think those tips are really great. Just being real and upfront with that. Communication, and then maybe again finding different ways you can help out. I think really help that. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So why is modeling the way so critical for leaders to do in a team setting?
Why is modeling the way for teams to do and leaders to do in the team setting? I say that because if I am, as a maybe instructor, as a leader, as somebody that individuals may look up to, if I don't put in that dedication, that work in, that can impact the team that I'm working with. And I think that our energy transfers, our vibe transfers. So if I come in which I'm learning right now, if I come to into a space with kind of like frazzled or not organized or whatnot, that can impact exactly productivity, and that can delay certain things. So I think that it's important to always be optimistic. It's always to be positive, because again, that same energy, that same mood or vibe, if you want to use that language, that can potentially now rub off on your team, on the individuals that are working with, and that could say, okay, I do want to be around that person, or I do not want to be around that person. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. So this question's kind of more, I guess, broad looking and broad scale looking. What qualities are present in your experience in positive programming for students? And obviously each programming, depending on the goals and outcomes, might look a little bit different. But are there like any core things that maybe when a student maybe is designing a development opportunity or a presentation or a team building exercise or even a team meeting for their group, let's say maybe it's a student organization or something, are there a few things that need to be present to be successful, would you say?
I would say yes. I would say thinking about the outcomes that you want those individuals who are attending. What do you want them to walk away with? What information do you want them, those who are attending, to walk away with? Right? How do you want their perspective to change? How do you want them to now walk out of this room, with a changed mindset and a changed thought, right? And when I think about culture, when I think about identity programming, I think about within the program, how can you, share your experience? How can you share maybe even research? How can you share how you've been impacted? Because I think that we learn differently. We take things a little bit more when it does provide and offer that actual personal experience, and we can see exactly how things have progressively changed.
Right.
If that makes sense. And I think that could also challenge individuals. One, to be able to do things differently, to be able to communicate and just interact with individuals from a different perspective. Like if I had a specific stereotype or bias, towards something, but I now attend a specific program, or I hear information that's going to cause me to think different. I can now look at a specific situation or someone with a different perspective.
Sweet, good answer. Next question. So, what are some leadership skills one can gain through programming? I know you rattled off a couple earlier, like teamwork, maybe some problem solving. But are there any other specific skills that people can get?
Specific skills that individuals can get from programming, budgeting, financial skills, how to stay within, how to work with challenging individuals. Because again, depending on what type of program you're doing, if you're working with other individuals, somebody could want their idea, their thought, over yours, right? So like, how do you compromise?
Okay.
So I think that's a good skill to have. I think another skill is learning you have to be mindful of your audience, right? You can't just look at it and produce. That's for produce a program from your own experience, even though it's coming, but you have to think about those individuals that will be in attendance, right? How do you reach them? What is the best way for them to be able to now connect with the program, with what it is that you're teaching?
That's a huge point Alfred just made, is creating that programming or those learning opportunities from the lens of the audience, right? And knowing that, and that can be really challenging to do, but that's a really, really positive skill that I think people get from, that can develop from there, that you can use really anywhere, career, family, friends, whatever it may be.
I mean,
relationship building.
If you ever go to a space to speak, right? You can have an idea, you can have a thought, and you can come, from multiple approaches with something, but sometimes if I'm going to do a presentation, maybe to a younger crowd, right? I'm not going to come to them with theory. I'm not going to come to them with this education mindset. I'm going to come to them with my lived experiences. I'm going to come to them where they are at. So therefore, they can now apply I'm going to attempt to come to them where they are at and apply what it is that I'm saying in the most practical way as possible.
Love that response. So what types of programming, I guess in your experience, have you seen that are helpful to students?
What types of programming are helpful to students? That's a good question. That's a very, very good question. I'm going to say programming that is helpful for students. From my experience, I will say that programming that is going to help them learn how to apply in classroom experiences with out of the classroom experiences, and then lived experiences essentially that they can actually apply from somewhere else to now what it is, what is actually being taught, and what is being shared. I think that will probably be the most helpful programming for students.
Great answer, because I mean, episode 2 that we shot with Dr. Javon, we talked all about that. So if you haven't seen that one too, or you have, go back and watch that, because there's a lot of great examples in there. And like Alfred just mentioned, combining those experiences, because so you get the more full experience, right? And then you see those benefits and skills and development grow. How can a leader find opportunities to grow and learn? Right? We often think sometimes, I think, people might have that conception. I'm the leader, so I have to create these experiences for others. And I think effective leadership, you're learning and growing through those experiences as well, right? You're learning from those people, we'll say followers, or those people that you're leading. But what are some outside maybe experiences, like how a leader can maybe advance their development when they're not maybe in that full-on leadership role?
I guess for me, I'm the type of person, I believe that even if you are not in a leadership role, you're still a leader.
Right.
I think that even if you're not finding a way to where if you can think about someone being impacted by an example, by something that, what's what I'm looking for? If you can find your input, if you can see that your input, your idea is going to help and benefit somebody who's not in the room, then I think that is one way. So being able to challenge, if you are able to find ways to challenge what's being said, or what's being discussed, then I think those are one ways where you can actually grow, and you can find opportunities to actually learn. Like if you can go out and get information about a topic that you do not know anything about, you can then find those missing gaps. So therefore you can actually see exactly, okay, this is where this conversation can actually happen, and how this can grow, how this can happen, how this can occur.
Love that. I know I'm mentioning it a few times in this episode, and we've also, again, covered this a little bit on previous episodes as well, and we'll continue to keep pushing this message, because it's such a powerful message and important, and you touched upon it greatly already a handful of times, but you can lead without that assigned role, right? And I think there's people right now that maybe haven't heard that before, right? And that's that messaging. And I think a lot of, again, here at Central Michigan University, a lot of professionals, a lot of departments really strive for that message. I know we had Dan Gakin on our last episode. He talks about that a lot, right? About, you can lead without having that formal role or title. And sometimes we need to lead up and down the chain of command, right? If there is a chain of command, or how that looks. And it's the little things, right? I think you were kind of alluding to there. It's by finding ways you can challenge or to push people to be better, and yourself as well. And it's those, I think it really is those small things connectively or collectively that end up creating those big changes. And that's super important. So we really want to stress that, and we talk about it a lot, but you have the ability to lead, and you can lead, even if, again, you don't have that maybe quote unquote assigned role. And sometimes, you don't, again, some of that best leadership comes from without those roles.
That's true. I mean, and again, it's all about finding, honestly, because even somebody who is in an assigned role, that doesn't always mean that they have 100% the skill set. They know exactly what to do. But if you're able to find, okay, how can I now make a difference? How can I now add value to the role and to the experience, either for the individual who's in the role, to help them grow, to help them learn how to see things differently. That makes you a leader, because you're taking a step up, and you're not just sitting back to let things continue to be, especially if you see how things could be done differently.
Yeah. Effective leadership, you're inspiring other people to lead as well, right? So hopefully that's the culture or kind of environment that you're building too with that team or organization. And again, that just comes from people doing it. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to come from the top. How do friends or groups that are important to people impact one's leadership development or how they showcase it? Kind of going along the lines of, surrounding the people who you are with, how does that affect someone in those roles? And maybe how can you find those people to maybe more positively support that leadership development?
I think one, if you're thinking about your friends or thinking about individuals where you're trying to grow as a leader or grow just as an individual, I think one, letting them know. Letting them know exactly, okay, where you are, what you're trying to improve and increase it, but then also, okay, allow them to either hold you accountable, right?
That's a big one.
Progression, or progress. Ask them doing check-ins, or asking them, do they know anyone who actually specializes in a specific area or in a specific lane. So therefore, they can help make that connection. As well. So I think that's one way that friends can help with leadership development and showcase. Because again, when we are only at our best if we can get that connection and get that assistance. But by sharing what it is that you want to learn, what you want to do with someone else, you're able to find that connection or that resource and network faster.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love how you mentioned too. That's why I kind of had that reaction was just letting him know. I didn't even think about that, but that's that is just a powerful example too. It's like, hey, I'm looking to do this. Hopefully you can support me and be on this journey with me and just understand that's where kind of my mindset's going.
Yeah.
So, it's really cool. What are some ways someone in an organization or a team can lead when they don't have a formal leadership role, which we kind of touched upon, but is there any more specifics? Like maybe how can I create? I'm thinking of maybe someone listening to this. I'm new to this team or environment. How can I create this change? Because I believe that this is possible. What can I do? Like, maybe what are some specific things to kind of start that emotion or build that movement within?
I would say one, if you're a part of a team and you're thinking about, okay, how do I now implement without a formal leadership role? One, if you have that rapport, that capital, to talk with someone who is in a leadership role, proposal. Write it up, share it with them, let them know, hey, this is what I'm thinking. These are my thoughts. This is what I want to do. This is how, right? Share all of that with them and see what their thoughts about it. That's leadership. That's taking initiative. That's not letting things just remain and letting your idea, your thought just remain. You're actually taking that step to try to produce and implement. Now, again, that's not to say it's going to happen in that time,
right?
But at least you're still taking the initiative, right? And you keep that in your repertoire. So therefore, again, you can continue to take that moving forward. Yeah,
I think that's one of those things too, because that can definitely sometimes be a little bit intimidating, maybe, or even sometimes we I'm maybe a little afraid to share my idea or get it out there. But I also think that's one of those things that does become a little bit easier over time the more you do it, right? But again, like Alfred mentioned, which I think is so critical, and also understand that maybe that full idea isn't fully accepted in that moment, or maybe take times, or maybe pieces of it might be pulled, right, and utilized, and just being comfortable with that as well. But I think it's really important to share, especially in a team, and in those roles. I think is super important. So how can we challenge others to prioritize leadership development and getting involved?
How to help others prioritize leadership development and get involved? I would say it's a personal assessment. So you have to really kind of think about exactly where you are, what it is that you want, right? And how important is it that if you were to stay where you are, how is that going to delay potential growth, evolvement of where you want to be? So again, priority, right? You either can't help someone else if you don't allow yourself to help you, right? And if you don't give to yourself, how can you be there for somebody else? Or if you don't help yourself, if you don't allow yourself that space to continue to have that upward mobility or to share, how can you see yourself by just getting? It's not just I don't believe that it will just fall from the sky. I don't believe that.
Okay. How do we I'm curious to get your perspective on this one. How do we push the importance of leadership, that messaging and leadership development at both that large scale level, but also on maybe more of those small scale, like maybe those individual conversations or bases? I just want to know maybe what your thoughts are on that, and how we can maybe again make that more of, I guess, the norm, right? And I think in certain places, in certain environments, maybe have the opportunities or do this already a little bit better than others, but how do we do that again? Like maybe that large scale version, but also at a smaller level.
I'll probably be crazy.
Now let's hear it.
Excuse me. I'll probably be crazy to say that I don't think it'll be. I don't think it's different whether large scale or small scale.
Okay.
And that's why I think I'm crazy enough to say that. And the reason why I say that is because to reach individuals regarding leadership, and both small scale, large scale, you're able to share your experience. You're able to share what you have and have not done.
Okay.
What changes, what trends do you see are occurring in specific environments and specific spaces that can grow with a specific population, right?
Yeah.
And just letting them know, and eventually, whether it's large scale, it's going to eventually boil down to the smaller scale, right? Because it's like the telephone game. We can share information, whether largely, but then it's like, okay, if that really gravitated and that hit me, then I'm going to share it with somebody else. And so I guess that's the smaller scale, right? And that's the individual. So it's gonna eventually continue to keep on trickling, and being spoken to somebody else.
Love that answer.
Yeah.
I like that. No, I think it's a tough question to answer, right? I mean, it's not like perfect science to it. It's like more like kind of theory or just thoughts, but I appreciate you answering that one. All right. If you could share one piece of advice with the audience in relation to leadership or leadership development, what would it be?
If I could share one specific advice to who's watching this podcast regarding leadership and leadership development, is brace yourself, and know that where you are is exactly where you need to be for that specific time, and that where you are right now is not the end of the story, right? You're always evolving, you're always growing. And find out exactly what skills and what things that you need to either improve on as you continue to journey, as you continue to move forward, and work daily and to the best of your ability to improve, to increase, and to better those skills.
Okay.
Because if there's still breath in your body, there's still work to be done.
A little follow-up one to that, because I really like that response about kind of, again, every day, kind of just the little things working. You're going to see small change, big change, whatever the level is. Just keep refining those skills, getting better each day. How, I guess, in your experience, and if you've had this experience before, what strategies do you implement when maybe you are making progress, but it doesn't seem that way, or doesn't maybe feel like that? How do you handle those situations? I think that's a tough one for a lot of people.
That's a very tough question, because even if I am making progress,
sometimes it doesn't feel like it.
It does not feel like it. It does not feel like it. I can be honest, I probably have a little bit of anxiety, and I'm an overthinker too. So I'm beginning to try to practice recognizing the small wins. And like I mentioned, having that checklist, right? And writing things down, and either checking things off of a list, and if I'm able to provide impact or help a student achieve or receive something, or they feel like, okay, what I've given them has provided some level of support or comfort, then I feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I've done something right. I've done my due diligence. One thing I'm trying to do, I bought this journal recently.
Okay.
And it's like a gratitude journal, and specifically, what are you most grateful for? What was a small accomplishment for a day, and take that time to actually think versus just kind of keep going and going and going.
Do you feel like that's paid off yet a little bit?
I can't say that I implemented it just yet.
Okay, you're kind of working towards it.
I am working towards that, not afraid to admit it. But in the times that I have practiced that, it does help.
Okay.
Because it sees that the work that I'm doing is not in vain.
Love that. That's such a challenge. Thank you for answering that, because it is a really challenging question. There's no perfect answer to that one either. It's definitely more of like that, having that self-awareness, and really depends on who you are as a person. But I think sometimes we can get caught up, especially I mean, this is everyone, but especially when you have that leadership role and you have that responsibility of taking care of others around you and supporting their learning and growth and development. Sometimes we don't always feel like we're making progress, but I think that's when we really have to dig deep and do some of that. Maybe it might work. That reflective work works from some people. Some other people, there might be another thing out there. To really, like you said, celebrate those small wins and realize, this is a big change. Because I often find myself doing that as well. Like, I didn't really see these big results or this big change, or I'm looking forward to what's next, right? You accomplish something and you don't really, and not necessarily enjoy it, but sit there and realize and reflect on it enough. But that is, I think, really important, because then we can kind of get caught up in, like, I'm not doing anything. I haven't made an impact, made a difference, when in reality we have.
Right.
And things like that. So that's same for me, continuous journey. But I was curious what you had to say for that one. So something we like to do on our show is we have our previous guest ask our next guest a question. So we have one for you here, and it's leadership related. So we'll have you go on that. It's totally cool. I mean, every guest is a little stumped at first, but then we'll have you ask the next guest a question. But you don't get to know who it is, so it's a little bit of mystery.
Do I have to put the question right now on the podcast?
You do. So we're gonna bring out, this is what we call our Mellow moment. Our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer, one of our producers, Mello, is gonna come out. He's gonna ask you last week's question, which was from Dan Gakin, and then after that response, I'll come back out and we'll get your question for the next guest, and we'll do our outro and all that fun stuff. But you ready for this? Our little Mellow moment segment.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
How you doing, Alfred?
I'm feeling good, Mello. How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome.
All right. So, when was the first time you ever thought of yourself as a leader?
Oh, God. That's a hard question. That's a very hard question. The first time I've ever thought myself as a leader. That's a very difficult question to ask and answer, because I can't honestly, even doing this podcast, I mean, for Brandon to ask me, honored, definitely. But I can't say I even sometimes always see myself as a leader, right? Because I focus on the flaws, right? But if I had to think about the first time I ever see myself as a leader, I think it would probably be thinking about the students that I've impacted. So when I first started advising at Central State, and I see, some of the students that have come to just chop it up and speak to me and get my thoughts on specific things, or how I can, be some form of a resource and support for them. And, maybe they see something greater than I even see in myself, right? And provide that encouragement. Like, I think about where I am in this doctoral program, and I think about, the first student, he'll still call me Dr. Harper, but remember they yelled it, on campus, like, Dr. Harper. And I'm like, you cannot be doing that, because people that earned will, no, I don't want those problems. But I would have to say that would probably be maybe the first time that I've seen myself as a leader, was someone being able to see more in me than I'm able to see to myself. I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think that's really good. Even in the beginning of the question, like, you kind of get stupid and you have to think about it. And one thing I've been telling myself a lot, and I would think this would apply, is you can't see the full picture when you're in the frame. And that's what I was getting out of that, was where it's like, you're meeting these students, you're helping them, you're giving them these resources, you're being that shoulder to lean on. And since you're in that moment, you're not thinking about it as, oh, I'm being a leader right now. To them, you are being the best thing that you can be for them. And then until you step back and you reflect on what you did and what you've achieved, you're like, oh, wow, like, I was really being a leader at that time, And I can relate to that too, where there's that imposter syndrome where it's like, oh, I'm not good enough, or, oh, I'm not doing enough. And sometimes it takes maybe other people or that self-reflection to go, oh, wait a minute, I have done enough. I am doing more than what I think, So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, even you just sharing that story, those students probably still think about you to this day. So.
And a lot of them, sometimes they'll reach out on IG. Some have my personal number, and we keep in contact,
Yeah.
So it's like, Yeah, I mean, you're right about it. In that moment, I was just being exactly who they needed me to be, providing that support, providing that encouragement, that motivation, for them to continue on with the fight that they were on and navigating through the time that they were experiencing.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, I like that, and it was good to talk to you for this brief moment, and I'll catch you later.
Appreciate you, Mello.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was a great response to that question, though. It's a tough one. Did you have like a feeling, I guess, when you kind of maybe realized when you were a leader or when you had that impact on someone?
It feels good. Like,
Yeah.
I would say, even in this moment, like doing this podcast, just nervous, right? But it feels like this is like, it just felt great to just, one, be genuine, be authentically just myself, right? But it felt like I was supposed to be here. It was something enjoyable. It wasn't like work or anything like that. Like I could say, I still have some things in my mind, but those things in my mind were not essentially holding me down.
Right.
It was like meant to be. So, the space was perfect.
Well, we're pumped you're here. You've done a great job so far. What's your question for next? Leadership related. Now you got to ask a question.
I have to ask a
If you need
question
a couple seconds, for sure, take it.
Definitely
But exactly. Who are you gonna stump tomorrow? Yeah, exactly.
As a leader or someone in a leadership role, what do you do for yourself to stay motivated, to keep going, and even, I would say, not to respond with emotions when the person you're speaking with is essentially causing some form of conflict?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got that one. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next guest answers. I think they're gonna have a good response to this one. So I feel like they deal with this stuff all the time too. So it's gonna be perfect. That's awesome. So real quick, where can people find you? And then do you have any maybe resources that we'll be able to link down in like the description box of the video of resources that come to mind? And if you have some later, you can definitely shoot them over. That maybe students might want to utilize or it might help them on their journey.
Just as a leader, yep, most definitely. As I think about, one, where can students find me? Stay on task here. But I'm in the Mass Office Multicultural-Academic-Student Service. It's in the lower level of the Bovey University Center, room 112C, but you have to come inside of the Center for Student Inclusion and Diversity, which is UC 108. So that's where my office is. Or you can reach me via email. I don't know if that'll be on here, but
we can attach it. If you're cool with it,
But you can find me. I'm pretty sure somebody will be able to guide you to where I'm at if needed. But resources that I think that would be beneficial to students in their development and just leadership in general. Definitely would say Leadership Institute, definitely the Mass Office, the Volunteer Center, because that's a great way for you to be able to, increase and develop as a leader and, by serving others, really. Let me see. Just resources to be successful as well, and also a great way to be a mentor, a great way to be a leader and be a mentor. We do have Mentor Collective, which is a peer-to-peer mentoring program, which is within our office. We have Men About Change, WISH, which is a women's initiative for strength and hope, out of the Mass Office as well. That's all I got on my mind right now.
Love that. If you're still listening, definitely go in the comments right now and comment involvement. We'll say involvement on that. That was awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We're super excited that we were able to get this one together, get it filmed, and I'm super excited for hopefully the audience to view this one. It was a really great show. It was great learning with you too along the way. So,
well, Brandon, I appreciate you for inviting me. I think
of course.
This is episode 5.
Episode 5.
Lean into leadership. Thank you for giving me the space. Honored. And if I could be of any assistance or provide any more insight or whatnot, here and happy to do it.
Great guy. Looking for a mentor too. I mean, I'm gonna plug you here. I'm not gonna put you on the spot here or hold you to it, but he'd be great resource to just get to know as well. Awesome person around campus. We'll have to do a part 2 one day too. I mean, this was great. So
I'm open to it.
Yeah,
let me know.
That's awesome. Alrighty, so that's all we have for you today on Lean Into Leadership. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be right here same time next week with another episode. You're not gonna want to miss it. For now, keep leading the way. Peace.